This is the sound of your ride home with Dad after he caught you vaping. Awkward, isn't it? Most vapes contain seriously addictive levels of nicotine and disappointment. Know the real cost of vapes. Brought to you by the FDA.
Greetings, conversationalists. Welcome. It's Eric Erickson across the nation. The phone number is 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program, I would love to have you with me. Now, there is news. I get to make it about me, so it's my favorite news to cover. Actually, pretty significant news has happened. A letter has come out. I can't say the words on the radio, don't want to say the words on the radio, but you know the letters FAFO. It's become something of a meme on social media. Mess around, I'll say, instead of the F word, mess around and find out. 13 federal judges have come out with a letter, their names on it. They will no longer hire clerks from Columbia Law School or Columbia College after the university allowed an encampment on its lawn to spiral into a destructive occupation of a campus building. Considering recent events and absent extraordinary change, we will not hire anyone who joins the Columbia University community, whether as undergraduates or law students, beginning with the entering class of 2024. Justice William Brennan refused to hire law clerks from Harvard Law School because he disliked criticisms of the Supreme Court from some of its faculty. The objective of our boycott is different. It is not to hamper academic freedom, but to restore it at Columbia University. Signed, Elizabeth Branch, who I know, James Ho, who I know, Matthew Solemson, Alan Albright, David Counts, James Hendricks, Matthew Kazmarek, Jeremy Kernoodle, Tillman Self III, Brantley Starr, Drew Tipton, Daniel Trainer, I know Drew Tipton there, Stephen Alexander Vaden. They say there's been an explosion of student disruptions and the virulent spread of anti-Semitism at Columbia. James Ho and Liz Branch are appellate judges. Matthew Solemson is on the U.S. Court of Federal Claims. They wrote the letter to the president of Columbia University. And they write, quote, freedom of speech protects protest, not trespass, and certainly not acts of threats of violence or terrorism. It has become clear that Columbia applies double standards when it comes to free speech and student misconduct. Now, it's notable because Alan Albright is on the list. You don't know who Alan Albright or Stephen Vaden are, but Alan Albright hears 1/4 of the nation's patent cases. If you want to study patent law and get a good job in patent cases, you want to law clerk for Alan Albright because he single-handedly handles 1/4 of the nation's patent cases. He is the leading district court level jurist on patent law, and he's just said, if you go to Columbia University, I'm not going to hire you. Guess what? Columbia University teaches patent law. And now all of the students in the patent law classes at Columbia University are guaranteed not to get a job with the leading jurist in patent law in the United States. And the other one is Stephen Vaden. He's the leading jurist of the United States Court of International Trade, of which Columbia makes a big deal about its law practice. Also, there's Matthew Kazmarek, who is one of the prominent district court judges. Many of these judges were picked by Donald Trump, including one. When I was a lawyer, I was doing a lot of campaign work. I was running campaigns out of the office, and it was very obvious to myself and everyone else when I was a lawyer that I liked politics more than I liked practicing law. And I tried to turn it into a aspect of my law practice, and I got some good clients out of it. And in some cases, my law firm benefited because I ran some local races. Those people got elected, and then they gave my law firm some business. They liked having me there, and I got to work on county business and other business. But I really didn't like the practice of law. And one day, one of the lawyers at the law firm who had become a partner, who's a dear friend of mine, he came into the office, he closed the door, he looked me in the eye, he said, I don't even know if he remembers doing this. He says, do you know what the definition of a dumb, well, I'll say rear end. I shouldn't say the ASS on the radio. There might be children listening. Do you know what a dumb butt is? Or do you know the definition of a dumb butt? And I said, no. And he said, you. He looked right at me. He says, you do not like this, but you love politics. Go find a job in politics. And at the time, it was redstate.org, was slowly taking off. And I wound up, my wife was pregnant with our first child, and I went home and I told her, you know what, I think I'm going to be a blogger. After we got home from the hospital, after she went into false labor, story in and of itself, I wound up getting a job in Washington for a year, and I commuted back and forth from Macon, Georgia to Washington, D.C. I would have never taken the risk, but for the loving and gentle push of Tillman Self III, who I left my law practice, and 2 years later, he said, would you run my campaign for judge? Because in the state of Georgia, we elect judges. He was running for Superior Court judge, and I ran his race, and he won. He became a Superior Court judge and wound up getting appointed by Donald Trump to the federal district court in the Middle District of Georgia. And he's a great judge. And you know what? He's not a rabid partisan. He's a fantastic conservative. But he's a good all around guy. Listens to the show on occasion. I know him and his wife, and it's fantastic to see him on the list. It's nice to know that there are principled jurists in this country taking a stand against anti-Semitism, even as life-tenured judicial appointees. And that one in particular, I wouldn't be doing. My entire career path comes from him gently pushing me out the door of my law firm. There are a lot of people along the way who deserve credit. Rush Limbaugh and others in particular, but none of them would have even got the opportunity. I would have never made friends with Rush and others had Judge Self not pushed me out the door of my law firm gently. And now he's on this list, and that's good to see. This is Columbia University's chickens coming home to roost. There is a meme. Y'all know memes. My 15-year-old son loves memes. In fact, my wife and I have somewhat morbidly joked, if our kid dies before us, on his tombstone, we will carve the words, have you seen this meme? Because every single day that we orbit around the sun, my son will at some point utter the words, have you seen this meme? Because he loves the memes, y'all. He loves the memes. And one of the great memes is about the leopards eating people's faces party. I voted for the leopards eating people's faces party, and I am shocked the leopards began eating people's faces. The Democrats have used this meme against Republicans. Republicans have used this meme against the Democrats. It is now Columbia University's time to use the leopards eating people's faces party meme, because Columbia University, among with other Ivy universities, decided to prioritize hiring activist students. They wanted to know what these children did in their communities to incentivize radical change. This came around the time of George Floyd, when these universities wept into an emotional frenzy over George Floyd's death, decided we've got to do better, elevating the non-white children in non-white households from non-white communities who want to go to college. We have to stop taking standardized test scores, and we got to stop looking at the grades, and instead we need to find out, what have you done in your community? In my community, I organized an LGBTQIATTPIATQ plus event. Got all the letters right. We need to admit this person. sir, they failed all their classes, but they got all the letters and the LGBTQ plus identity right. They're clearly a true believer. We must admit them. And then they found the students who organized a food convoy for Gaza, inspired by David Duke and Cynthia McKinney. My gosh, we need that kid in school. Who cares about their grades? The grades are racist anyway. So the university started enrolling a bunch of kids with bad grades and lack of reading skills who knew how to organize a riot. And guess what happened? The kids organized a riot. And now the universities are beside themselves. Columbia University is now getting the results of the leopards eating people's faces party, and they're shocked by it. Federal judges, 13 of them no less, signing a letter, some of the most prominent federal district judges in the country, saying we're not hiring anybody who goes to Columbia Law School or Columbia University's college. It suddenly takes off the board for, let's just take the patent law kids. So I don't know if you know this. I couldn't be a patent lawyer. Even if I wanted to be a patent lawyer, I couldn't be a patent lawyer because you got to have an engineering and science background in college to become a patent lawyer. My alma mater you could get a combined patent degree with the engineering school. But since I wasn't, even if I wanted patents, I couldn't do it. I had a friend of mine who had an engineering background and specializes and makes a ton of money, makes a whole lot of money as a patent lawyer. It's a very specialized field. In Columbia University, you could get a degree, you could get a law degree with a specialty in patents. But why would you want to go to Columbia now to get that when the judge who single-handedly handles a quarter of all the patents in this country has said, I'm not going to hire anybody from your university? That kills that program at Columbia. You want to do international trade? One of the senior judges for the U.S. International Trade Court says, I'm not hiring from Columbia anymore. Suddenly, their international trade law program is out the window at Columbia. It did not take Congress passing an Anti-Semitism Awareness Act to make this happen. It took good people standing up and saying, I'm not going to do business with these people anymore. You know what? I'll go all in as well. I have a special announcement to make. I will not hire anyone who went to college at an Ivy League or Big Ten university. Not going to do it. Nope. If you want to work for the Eric Erickson Show, you can't go to college at a Big Ten school or the SEC. Go to trade school, go to vocational school, go to who knows where. Go to the SEC or the ACC. But I'm not going to hire Ivy League grads. I'm going to stand in solidarity with these judges, and I'm going to take it a step further. I don't want anti-Semites working for me. Good for these judges. Actions have consequences. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. It shouldn't take Isaac Newton telling us these things to know. When you stir up anti-Semitism on campus, you invite kids in who are not qualified to be there academically, but just because they're activists and they start being activists on campus and protesting and becoming more and more radicalized, you're going to get what you deserve. And we're already seeing, Forbes has come out and noted that major employers in this country are already saying they're less and less likely to hire from the Ivies because of what's going on. They're looking at, for example, the University of Florida. Ben Sass had a piece in the Wall Street Journal the other day about the University of Florida is not a daycare. It's a university, and kids are supposed to be confronted with and challenged by the ideas of others and to engage civically and civilly in doing so. And that's what he expects at his university. And the University of Florida is thriving. They just had their graduation down there. I texted him the other day and said I would spare him jokes about their football program and just wanted to congratulate him on that op-ed. Actions have consequences. So I'm not hiring anybody from Emory University either with stuff that's going on there. Judges are starting to pay attention to this, and the rest of us should as well. Good for them for doing so. Greetings and welcome. It is Eric Erickson here. The phone number 877-973-7425. Let's go to the phones. Jose, you're going to be up next. Welcome.
Hello, how you doing?
Great.
So
How are
I have
you?
A quick question. Doing good. So what do you think would happen to the polls if, for example, these jurists in this trial, this Trump trial, all of a sudden kind of see what's going on and say, hey, he's innocent, and he's declared completely innocent. They start interviewing the jurors, and they start talking about how, they saw that he was being framed. How do you think that would affect the polls?
I honestly think if Trump is found not guilty, or even if there's a hung jury, I think he goes up further in the polls. And the reason I say this is because there is a lot of the underlying data about the Trump trial. A growing number of Americans, something like 56% in the Harvard-Harris poll, say they do believe the Democrats are engaged in lawfare against Donald Trump. Even among those who think Donald Trump probably did something wrong or illegal, those people, a majority of them, believe the Democrats are actually only going after Trump because they don't like him politically. So if a jury finds Donald Trump not guilty, or a hung jury, there's a split decision. I think if it's a split decision, people are going to say, well, the Democrats found him guilty, the Republicans found him not guilty, of course. If it's not guilty, he skyrockets in the polls. If it's a hung jury, he goes up, he gets a little bump in the polls. If the Democrats pour this much emotional energy into it, including, keep in mind, I mean, the folks at MSNBC, nonstop coverage of this trial, the people at CNN, a healthy dose of daily coverage of this trial, skewing towards dragging out salacious dirt on Donald Trump that's not really even relevant to the underlying charges. So if the jury hears everything and comes back and says, no, he's not guilty, it really does look like a witch hunt. And because it looks like a witch hunt, it is going to turn the tide in Donald Trump's favor overall, because people who have heard all the outrageous allegations against Donald Trump, true or not, a lot of them not, they're not going to believe anything anymore because of it. The Democrats are playing with fire with this Alvin Bragg case. They really are. All it takes is a single person on the jury to hang it, and that could very well happen. What if your computer hangs up? Who do you call? Vision Computers should be your answer. If you buy a computer from Vision Computers, their award-winning tech support comes with it. They've got thousands of 5-star Google reviews. Their tech support's so good. And it comes with it at no charge. However, if you did not buy a computer from Vision Computers, you can still pay them a small annual fee, $179. If you're a business, $179 per computer. Vision Computers will take over the service of your computers. And if you got a question about your computer, you can't figure something out in 15 seconds or less, you'll get the answer. You'll get a special phone number to call Vision Computers. They'll give you the answers. They can even remote in many cases and check on your computer and fix things for you. They can help you with email support, printer support. You don't have to have bought your computer from Vision. All you do is call them at 404-COMPUTE. 404-COMPUTE. Tell them I sent you, get an even better deal. 404-COMPUTE, or go to visioncomputers.com. But if you want Vision to build a computer for you, instead of going to the one-size-fits-all big box store, they will give you a computer that meets your needs, not the needs of every single person, but your needs. And then they'll include their tech support. 404-COMPUTE's the number. 404-COMPUTE. Give them a call, any one of you, nationwide. Kalispell, Montana to Miami, Florida. Give them a call, 404-COMPUTE, or go to visioncomputer.com. Got some folks who've waited on hold relevant to the show today. Want to take their phone calls, and yours, 877-973-7425. Let's go to Scott, waiting very patiently. Scott, welcome. How are you?
Hey, Eric, how are you? Can you hear me?
Great. Yep, I sure can.
Okay, got two quick questions for you that I'll hang up. First one is, what do you, with the anti-Israeli protesters, I'm seeing things behind the people up front. They tend to look like Antifa, even though they're not dressing in black. Their normal uniform of wear. But do you see any Antifa in this? The second question I have is related to the supposedly Hamas accepting the ceasefire deal. Do you think Biden, through back channels or someone behind him in the White House through back channels, has heavily encouraged Hamas to take this deal to stay alive? What are your thoughts?
Okay. I'm sorry. I'm confused on your last point. Somebody was sending me a text message while you were, so what about Hamas and Biden in the deal?
Do you think that Biden himself through back channels has told Hamas to take the deal?
No.
Or someone behind Biden telling
no,
Hamas
because
through back channels?
Hamas doesn't care what Joe Biden thinks. If anything, Hamas at this point kind of thinks that the Biden administration is beholden to them and their antagonistic supporters in this country. So no, I don't think so.
Okay, then what do you think about the Antifa? And I'll hang up.
On Antifa, yeah, absolutely. And Antifa is totally engaged in this. And in fact, what I find very interesting is at Columbia University, you'll appreciate this one given where you're calling from. At Columbia University the other day, there were 2 people who were arrested who were wearing Stop Cop City t-shirts. 2 of the protesters who were there who were not students. Now, what does that mean for those of you who don't know? Stop Cop City is an Antifa operation in the Atlanta, Georgia area where there's a police training facility that's being built. And Antifa activists from around the country have showed up. They're being funded by outside groups. They have firebombed a youth facility. They've shown up in churches to harass worship services because people building the training facility go there. They firebombed a fire department. They've shot at police officers. They have booby-trapped and placed bombs over the property, making it difficult to clean up. They've rioted through downtown Atlanta. And now you got people with Stop Cop Cities protesting at Columbia. Yeah, this is Antifa is involved. In fact, hang on one second. I want to, you're going to have to give me a minute. It is important. It is important. Where is the story? No, so it would have been Saturday that I saw it. I may not be able to find it. So I saw this the other day. Someone did a story of how to prepare your phone for a protest. And I thought to myself, why would you be telling people how to prepare your phone for a protest? Well, should be obvious to you because cell phone tracking, how to prepare your phone for a protest. I'm Googling for this website. Yep, here it is. Updated 2024. Gaza solidarity encampments have appeared on college campuses around the United States, joining a growing wave of protests against Israel's ongoing war on Gaza. Before going to a protest, demonstrators or observers should note that their cell phones may subject them to surveillance tactics by law enforcement. If your cell phone is on and unsecured, your location can be tracked and your unencrypted communication, such as SMS, may be intercepted. Additionally, police may retrieve your messages and the content of your phone if they're taking you into custody or later by warrant or subpoena. Wild that they're having to tell people, I mean, no one at the March for Life ever has to secure their cell phone in this capacity. But here, they're giving you this as sort of advice. Why do you think that is? Because they're trying to make sure all the Antifa activists can't be accused of coordinating, because this is the mythology. Remember Chris Cuomo on CNN back at the time before he got fired was talking about how Antifa is a myth? Or in Antifa, they're just like the people who stormed the beaches at Normandy, whatnot. They're anti-fascists, but they're not coordinated. Of course they're coordinated. They get their funding from common sources. So that's why they're having to tell these protesters how to protect your phone from being stooped on when they go to a protest to avoid this. This is why we need RICO investigations and this stuff. JT, you're up next. Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show.
Good afternoon, Eric. How are you?
Great. What's going on?
Yeah, I actually, man, you've been on fire all day. So I usually call you on Fridays, but I had to call in, man. A point that you made the last hour about the media. Well, I'm sorry, the left having Trump stuck in court. And I'm still catching up from over the weekend. I know he got a raucous welcome at the Miami Grand Prix. I didn't know that. And I guess you and I talked about it recently, but I've seen it twice now within the past few hours a day. So I don't know if it's a go, but it sounds like it. Trump is going to have a rally at Madison Square Garden. And I'm like, what? And I was like, you know how big of an earthquake that would make, and ground shaking that would be. So, I mean, I'm sure the supporters are going to show up. My only concern area is, the protesters from the college right now and just the people that don't like him. And, security is going to have to be tight, for to have a rally in New York City like that. But your point that you made earlier, like I said, and you and I would say it too, Trump doesn't even have to call the media, Eric. It's almost like free media, free press, like 2016. When he comes out of court, they're waiting for him. So, like you said, I go back to the point. The left really they hurt themselves. I think it's backfiring. Keeping Trump held in court, like you said, with the discipline, and all of that.
I really think so. Now, I would be careful in extrapolating too much. Like New York's not going to vote for Donald Trump. New York's not going to go red, but. There are still a lot of Republicans in New York. Just because overwhelmingly it's Democrat, there are going to be a lot of people they show up. And Trump is, and by the way, so the judge has held him in contempt again, another $1,000 fine, and said at this point he's going to consider jailing him. I dare him to. Part of me has a sneaking suspicion that Donald Trump would love it if the judge jailed him for mouthing off about the case. I think you'd see a polling bounce for Trump if they did. I mean, when you've got a majority of Americans already believe that it's a political witch hunt, and then they throw him in jail for mouthing off about it, part of me just thinks all that does is help Trump. All that does is help Trump. It's great PR for Trump. I absolutely. I think that's something that this judge is playing with fire. I mean, the whole system is playing with fire. And if the whole system burns because they decided to go after Donald Trump in this trial, y'all, I always preface this with, and it sometimes gets me in trouble with people, but I'm not a huge fan of Donald Trump's. I know election law. This trial should have never gone to trial. It is a garbage case. There is no basis for it. The only basis for it is to drag Donald Trump through the mud. And all the people who are indignant about it, they don't care what the law says. They're willing to tear apart every piece of the law in order to throw Donald Trump in jail because they don't think they can beat him at the ballot box. And more Americans are clued into that fact. They are getting Donald Trump elected by trying to stop him in court, and it's actually hilarious to watch. And frankly, the outrage is so overblown on a lot of it, it kind of makes you root for him because you want to see these people miserable when he wins. There was a story in the New York Times over the weekend. Hang on a second. New York Times, gallows humor, fleeing country, Trump elected. Where is this? From Peter Baker. Yes, from 15 hours ago. It has become the topic of the season at Washington dinner parties and receptions. Where would you go if it really happens? Portugal, says a former member of Congress. Australia, says a former agency director. That would be the CIA. Canada, says a Biden administration official. France, says a liberal columnist. Of course. Poland, says a former investigator. They're joking, sort of, at least in most cases. It's a gallows humor with a dark edge. Much of official Washington is bracing for the possibility that former President Donald John Trump really could return, this time with retribution as his avowed mission. The discussion is where people might go into a sort of self-imposed exile. Whether they mean it or not, the buzz is a telling indicator of the grim mood among many in the nation's capital these days. The what if goes beyond the normal prospect of a side unhappy about a lost election. It speaks to the nervousness about a would-be president who talks of being a dictator for a day, who vows to root out enemies he calls vermin, who threatens to prosecute adversaries, who suggests a general he deems disloyal deserves death, whose lawyers say he may have immunity even if he orders the assassination of political rivals. Y'all, this article reads like an in-kind contribution to Donald Trump. I mean, it almost makes you wish to see him get reelected. Many in Washington speculated about travel plans are not seeking publicity. Indeed, many who discussed it in recent days did so only if guaranteed their names would not be used for fears of making themselves more of a target. The range and seniority of people who talk about it is striking. They include current and former White House officials, cabinet secretaries, members of Congress, agency directors, intelligence and law enforcement officials, military officers, political strategists, and journalists. The topic came up repeatedly at the swirl of Washington soirees surrounding the recent White House Correspondents Association dinner. One person high on Mr. Trump's enemies list said that getaway planning is a regular matter of discussion among those targeted over the years on the former president's social media accounts. Another favorite Trump target said it raised over and over again, particularly among spouses of those seen at risk. That would be fantastic. Many of these people should leave. It would be hilarious to watch this play out. Bruce, you're going to be up next. Welcome, Bruce. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. I thought you might find this interesting, this thing about Columbia and all the Ivy League schools. 40 years ago, I was a master distributor for a major Eastern manufacturer, and one of the high-level managers that I worked with all the time said, I don't know why they hire all these Ivy League people. They think they've arrived, and they're entitled to everything. And he said they don't do anything very productive. He said they need to hire more people like you, which I took as a real compliment. But I got along well with him, and I thought you'd find that interesting. They've been hiring these people for years.
I'm not surprised. I got to tell you, Bruce, I know a number of people who graduated from the Ivy League, some of them very smart. But even the ones I know graduated from the Ivy League years ago say that this current crop of kids it's not particularly a generational thing. It is that generation who goes into the Ivy League. They're not great at what they do. They're not intellectually curious. They're already, their minds are made up. They're not well read. They don't want to read. These criticisms come up repeatedly, and I think these anti-Israel protests are kind of giving employers the nudge they needed to shut it all down. Recently, 10 regional banks had their credit downgraded. Now they're going to keep racking profits. They're going to get a bailout from the federal government. One in Philadelphia just got bought. The feds helped arrange it. And yet they don't want you to use your cash anymore. It's a secret war on cash, and Swiss America's got the details for you as they want to help you protect your hard-earned assets. You can get their report completely for free by calling or texting 800-289-2646. 800-289-2646. The all-out war on cash includes digital forms of currency, and it is spreading. The Secret War on Cash report, it is completely free from my friends at Swiss America. All you have to do is mention my name, Eric Erickson, when you call or text 800-289-2646. That's 800-289-2646. You can call them or you can text my name, Eric Erickson, and you will get the Secret War on Cash report completely for free from Swiss America. The number again, 800-289-2646, 800-289-2646. Message and data rates may apply. Welcome back, and I'd like to welcome back Eden Pure to the show as well. The Eden Pure Thunderstorm. It is an air purifier. You know, Philip was telling me he cooked red snapper in his house the other day and couldn't get the smell of the house. You know what takes care of that? The Eden Pure Thunderstorm. Those fishy odors from cooking or the frying odors or whatnot. The Eden Pure Thunderstorm takes care of it. They got thousands of 5-star reviews. I know it works because I take one with me. I took one with me to Las Vegas. Didn't need to use it, but I kept one in my suitcase because they're small. You can keep it in your travel bag. You can hold it in your hand. You can plug it up with a USB cord in the car even. And like, for example, true story, I might have gotten cigar smoke smell in my car. My wife was furious. The Eden Pure Thunderstorm just plugged it up with a USB cord and it took it out. The Eden Pure Thunderstorm sends out ozone molecules, O3 molecules, which seek out and destroy odors. Molecules go behind and under the furniture. Nothing can hide from them, and you don't have a filter. You never have to replace a filter. Right now, you can save $200 on the Eden Pure Thunderstorm 3-pack for whole home protection. You get one for upstairs, one for downstairs, one for your basement or your bedroom or your travel bag or your RV, wherever you need it. EdenPureDeals.com. Use the discount code ERIC3, ERICK3. You'll save $200 on 3 Eden Pure Thunderstorms. EdenPureDeals.com. The discount code is ERIC3, ERICK3. Y'all, they really do work, and I travel with one all the time. I've been in hotels that use them. They just work. The Eden Pure Thunderstorm 3-pack. Get Get them, save $200, EdenPureDeals.com, discount code Eric3. Now, all right, I got to move on to other stuff. Henry Cuellar is a Democratic member of Congress who voted to oust George Santos. Santos had not been found guilty of anything, but the allegations were pretty damning against George Santos. And Henry Cuellar voted to oust him. He's a Democrat. Well, now Henry Cuellar and his wife have been charged with a $600,000 foreign bribery scheme by the federal government. So, will the Democrats vote to oust their own guy? They won't even get rid of Bob Menendez. They demanded Republicans oust Santos, and the media ate it up. Will the media eat this up? I mean, I'm intrigued to see what happens. Why won't the media do it? What will the media say? What will the media do? Will they treat them equally? They should. Now, a Democrat says that they're not going to get rid of Henry Cuellar, that the difference is that the House Ethics Committee released a pretty troubling report on George Santos. Here's the reality of the situation. Republicans should have gotten rid of George Santos, but Democrats should get rid of Henry Cuellar. They shouldn't have to wait on a House ethics investigation. And here's the thing, because so many of the allegations already about Cuellar have been substantiated, just like same thing with Santos. It's like Bob Menendez needs to be out of there, and the Democrats won't replace him. You're going to start getting Republicans who refuse to do the same thing. Both sides should clean up their houses, but in Congress, everything's become political. Everything's become political. Also, the other reason they should probably get rid of Cuellar, the Democrats should, is because his seat's a swing district. They've got an opportunity, if they force him out of there, to get a new Democrat elected and established before the November election. But they're not going to do that now either. They're going to say, well, the election's happening in November. But this is a good reminder for the hypocrisy of the Democrats out there. It's going to be interesting to watch and see how this sort of stuff plays out. Will they oust Henry Cuellar? Don't hold your breath for it. Do not hold your breath. George Santos, of course, out there wondering, hey, guys, why me and not him? Which is kind of funny. But that guy, he needed to be gone anyway. All right. I will see you guys tomorrow. Have a great rest of the day. And text Eric to 33777.